Greetings of the day to all the listeners. Hope all of you are doing well, and welcome to another new episode of Simply Gita. We have finally reached the 17th chapter of the Gita, where God speaks about faith and the different types of faith. In a moment of crisis or confusion, when we are not clear as to whether we should or we shouldn't do something, when there is darkness in life, then during such moments, the knowledge of Gita appears to be pretty useful for us. One unique thing about the Gita is that it gives a summary of the knowledge which has been mentioned in the scriptures. Very soon we shall come towards the end of this particular journey, but for now, let us start with the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. It is not easy for all the people to know and understand the knowledge of the scriptures. Arjun asks God about those people who do not follow the instructions which have been given in the scriptures, but they still worship the Supreme with pure faith according to their own imagination. Arjun wants to know if such people are in the moral mode, in the active mode, or in the dark mode. Answering Arjun's question, Krishna tells that as per the modes of nature, which is acquired by the soul, the faith of a person can also be in one of the three different categories. It can be in goodness, in passion, or in darkness. So the faith of a person depends on the actions that the person has been performing in different previous lives. Such actions provide concepts to the soul, and the soul, when it merges with the nature, it determines the faith of the people. Explaining about faith, Krishna tells that under the influence of different modes of nature, a person develops a particular kind of faith. The faith of the person depends on the mode which is dominant in that particular person. Throwing light on different kinds of faith, God tells that the people in the moral mode have faith in the gods. The people who are in the mode of passion worship the demons, while the people who are in the dark mode, they worship spirits and ghosts. Krishna then mentions about demons. Usually the people who do not follow the scriptures, they give priority to their own desires and attachment. The people who engage in acts of strictness and self-punishment which are not recommended in the scriptures. Such people who perform these acts only out of pride, who are forced to do so because of being trapped in lust and attachment, such people who lack knowledge are demons. Such people not only torture the material body, but also the soul within by engaging in extreme sacrifices. God tells that the three modes of material nature not only affect the faith of the people, but it also affects the food, the sacrifices, and the charity that people engage in. He tells that just like the modes of nature, there are three different kinds of food, sacrifices, and acts of charity. By observing these things about a particular person, we can get a fair idea about the mode of nature which is dominant in a person at a particular point of time. The people in the moral mode like those foods which increase the duration of life, which purify the body and the mind, which provide strength, happiness, satisfaction, and health. Such foods are fresh, juicy, and pleasing to the heart. By consuming such foods, we can even get rid of diseases. Now Krishna tells about the foods which are dear to those people who are in the mode of passion. God tells that people in the mode of passion prefer those foods which are too bitter, too sour, hot, salty, dry, burning, and the foods which have a sharp smell or taste. Such foods result in anxiety, misery, and diseases. Such foods are full of excess of everything like salt, spices, and heat. Defining the foods of those people in the dark mode, Krishna tells that the food which is prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, which is tasteless, rotten, and which includes remnants and has an unpleasant smell, such foods are dear to those people who are in the dark mode. The explanation of such foods is enough for us to realize the consequences of consuming them. Now Krishna sheds light on the different types of sacrifices. He tells Arjun that the people in the moral mode perform sacrifices according to the instructions which have been given in the scriptures. They do so thinking of it as their duty, and they do not desire any benefit or reward in return. This particular verse teaches us that merely engaging in sacrifices is not enough, but it is essential to perform it with a controlled mind and without any material benefit. On the other hand, the sacrifices which are performed out of pride or for obtaining some material benefits in return, these are performed by the people who are in the mode of passion. Such people do not surrender their actions to the Supreme. If the sacrifices are done to obtain something in return, then they are not true sacrifices. Krishna then tells that the ignorant people in the dark mode engage in sacrifices without giving any importance to the scriptures, without faith, without distributing the spiritual food, and without chanting hymns and remuneration to priests. Such sacrifices never benefit the people who engage in them. God now tells about penance, about the disciplined spiritual practice which purifies the body. He tells that worshipping the Supreme, that is following his instructions and performing duties in the right manner, worshipping the spiritual master as well as elders like father and mother, and ensuring purity, simplicity, non-violence and celibacy are some acts which help in the purification of the body. Explaining about purity through speech, Krishna tells that by speaking those words which are true, which are pleasing, which are beneficial, and which do not cause anxiety among others, and by studying Vedic literature, a person engages in the purification of speech. Such a person is calm by nature and explains everything as it is without any bias. Krishna then explains to Arjuna about purification of the mind. He tells that satisfaction, simplicity, seriousness, and self-control are some ways of purifying the mind. The mind should be pleased, calm, and focused. Those people who have true faith and engage in the acts for the purity of the mind, body, and speech without expecting any material benefit in return, but thinking of it only as their duty, such people engage in purity in the moral mode. The people who engage in acts of purification out of pride and who desire respect, honor, and worship in return, such people are in the mode of passion. The acts of purification by such people are unstable and temporary. When faith is replaced by pretension, such acts of purity are in the mode of passion. The acts of penance which are performed without knowledge, by torturing the self or with the objective of harming others, such penances are performed in the dark or the ignorant mode. Such people try to harm others through body, speech, and mind. The people who engage in such penances are stubborn, foolish, and they lack knowledge. Now the Supreme throws light on the subject of charity, which is again different in the different modes of nature. Krishna tells that the people who engages in acts of charity, thinking of it as their duty, without expecting anything in return, at the proper time and place and to a deserving person, such acts of charity are in the moral mode. On the other hand, charity which is performed reluctantly and with the objective of getting something in return is charity in the passion mode. Such acts of charity are done with a troubled mind. God tells that charity which is performed at an impure place, at an improper time, and to a person who does not deserve the same, such acts of charity are performed in the dark mode. Such people, even if they engage in charitable acts towards a suitable person, they do so without giving proper attention or respect to the receiver. Now Krishna tells about the three words Om, Tat and Sat, which indicate the absolute supreme truth. Krishna tells that the three words Om, Tat, Sat, representing the truth, were used by the Brahmanas while chanting hymns and during sacrifices for satisfying the Supreme. God tells that the people who engage in acts of sacrifice, purity and charity, they always begin with the word Om to attain the absolute. Om is undoubtedly a very powerful sound which connects the Atma, the soul within, to the Brahman, the ultimate reality. Then Krishna explains about Tat. The word Tat indicates surrender to the Supreme. God tells that without desiring anything, a person should engage in sacrifices, penance and charity while surrendering everything to the Supreme. The purpose of the same is to get rid of attachment to the fruits of an action. The truth always remains as it is. Obtaining the absolute truth or obtaining peace is the objective of working with devotion, and the word Sat indicates the absolute. The true people who perform such sacrifices are also called Sat, and so are all the works of sacrifice, purity, and charity which are performed with the objective of pleasing the Supreme God and obtaining peace. Krishna explains to Arjuna that the acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance which are done without faith in the Supreme, such acts are only temporary. They are not true and they are useless in both this life as well as the next one. Such acts are called Asat, and they are the exact opposite of Sat. If certain acts are performed without true faith, then the results from such acts can never take us close to the truth. So with this, we have come to the end of the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where we came to know about different types of faith and about the sacrifices, penances, and charity of the people in different modes of nature. Once we understand the three different modes of nature, we can come from the darkness of ignorance to the light of awareness. Hope this episode was interesting. Thank you so much for joining in. Stay tuned for the next episode where we shall cover the last chapter on this ocean of knowledge. Take care, have a great day ahead, and lastly, I just have one request to make to the audience. Please let me know your views on the episode by connecting with me through the links given in the description box. Thank you. Take care.